Now, as I talk about, it's always great to take breaks when you draw, and always sharpen your pencil, and definitely sharpen it before lettering, which we're getting ready to letter. And as I said before, stepping back and getting perspective, it's definitely good to step back and get perspective before you letter, because when you're lettering, you're seeing where all the different the CN logo goes, where the number goes, where the stripe goes. And this is an area where you really want to have stepped back and taken a bigger look at the engine. And so here, basically, this stripe, what it is, you can kind of see that this stripe goes from the cab right through about and here, and then goes right through about there. And the one thing that in general is always a good rule of thumb is whenever there's striping or anything on a locomotive, it's always good to, if there's like a separation of paint, which this is, it's between the black and the white and the red, or like on Union Pacific, the gray and the yellow, Burlington Northern, the green and the black, always put all those paint separations in first, because they're very good guidelines as to where the letters go. And then from here, and then see, like here, because you've stepped back, you see, like here, I left this one little door off the nose. A lot of times you start to see little details. One thing I might do is I might put the 4705 on the cab. And one thing through the years I've kind of found that's not a bad thing. There's a tendency to write 4705, but actually one thing I found is it doesn't hurt actually to, as you block it out, try doing the 7 and the O and then the 5 and then the 4. This is kind of something I picked up through the years, just from my own what that does is the 7 and the O are right on center, and you kind of build the number much more centered, whereas if you just start putting the 4, the 7 and the O might fall a little off center. So that's actually something that through the years I found really helps me center the numbers. And the more centered they are, the more they look like they got put on in a paint shop. And it doesn't hurt right now to just put the little C from the C in, because you might end up, if you get busy, you might forget that. And then real quickly, because you just did that, put the N on the back. Because what happens is you get busy drawing, and next thing you know, you put the logo on, and like that little latch down there, you're like, okay, I'm done. And then you start painting the whole engine red here. And right here you notice, okay, the red actually goes past the back all the way to the grill. So, and sometimes on these I make little notes, as I've mentioned once before, so say red right there, because that way you kind of, and then put the 4705. in the number board. And the one thing I'll do that I'll call those, I almost call those ghost letters at times. Because until you've done these dozens and dozens of times, those 4705s on there, when you go over them, they're just going to be the essence of a 4 and a 7 and an O and a 5. And you almost might even want to make the number board just be the tiniest bit bigger, so that when you do the 4, 7, 0, 5, it's just ever so slightly bigger. And that's the kind of thing where if you look at it and it's like, I can barely see the 4705, don't feel bad about that, because okay. And then the CN, it's hard to see kind of on this, but it goes to the second door, and then it goes right to this door. And the CN is something that through quite a bit of practice, it basically, like, it's a little bit right at 1.5 inches or so. So, but eyeballing it, you just kind of, just right in the middle of it. I always kind of start with the N, because the N actually has kind of more of the body of the CN. What is, I put these two curves and then build the C off of that. There's the C and the N. And they're basically the same basic. Where they're basically the same size is the C where it connects to the N, and then the N, that's basically the same size, and the little tail of the C is a little bit shorter here at the top. It's not quite as long. So it's really the C going all the way to the N, and then the N going like that. Those two are kind of more almost, what's more almost the same size. A little bit longer, but you know, plus or minus right there. And then this engine's in the, and here where it doesn't hurt is to count, because this is in the www.cn.ca paint scheme. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and even count the period as one of the letters. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so there's 9 letters, and it's 1.5 inches. So, you know, they're basically, you kind of, and W's are bigger than other letters. So that's a big thing, is you kind of want to allow for that. And again, it's something that your eyeball over time will start to develop. But the biggest thing about lettering too is, compared to making letters too big, if you can at all help it, you much more want to make letters as little bit smaller, because you can always make letters a little bit bigger at the end, but if your letters are too big and you start to run out of room, there's really not too much you can do when you start to run out of room. And then there's a few kind of safety instructions. And then the lettering's pretty much done.